The words rose to heaven in a power that could only be sensed but not described. The singing was fire. It went right through you. Paddy says, to hear an awakened congregation singing the Psalms in an atmosphere pregnant with the presence of God was an experience one could never forget. Catherine Campbell says, the meetings, we would make a circle in the street holding hands and singing at the top of our voices. It was heaven on earth. Everything was made new. They sang in the meetings. They sang on the buses. They sang on the public transport buses. They sang on the buses coming to and from the meetings, and some of the drivers got saved. They sang in groups as they walked. They sang from house to house in the small hours of the morning. They sang after the meeting. They sang, there was a meeting, then they went to the house, they had another meeting, they had another meeting perhaps, and then after that they would still continue singing in the streets, standing and singing. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. The night my wife was deeply convicted in a house meeting, and she was dealt with by Duncan Campbell. Didn't come through God then, but she got a few arrows to the heart. She came out, and they thought she was part of the Christian scene then. She came out and stood and looked, and there they were singing, a whole big round circle of people standing there and singing. And she said, I looked across the singing crowd, and I saw a girl on the other side singing. She said there was such a light in her face, such a light in her face. I knew I was spoiled for everything. I would never rest until I found what that girl had. She had a kilt in the making. She was going to sing at Glasgow, great events, and it fell like ash. The world disappeared. She'd seen her face. They sang. That night, the night when Mary came to the Lord, she and a group of teenagers went down from the meeting to the sea, just down from her house. The port of Ness, there's a strand there. And they walked up and down the beach, singing. Now none but Christ can satisfy. No other name for me. There's love and life and love and joy. Lord Jesus, found in you. They sang above the sound of the waves. They came back, this little group of teenagers. There they were. A few months ago, they knew nothing about God. And now they were all rejoicing in his mighty salvation. They stood, what shall we do now? We don't want to go to bed. It's a waste of time to go to bed. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, it's a waste of time to go to bed. How wonderful. We're in the presence of God. And they stood. They'd never prayed in public, not one of them, ever. They'd just been saved. They stood on the sands. They didn't know what to do. And so they said, let's pray. And they lifted their hearts to God in prayer. In silent prayer they stood with bowed heads. 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. And slowly they went to their houses. Mary said, one night I came back at 6 o'clock in the morning. Joy is another thing. Pretty, that clock. This was another outstanding feature of the movement, joy. The spirit of joy was infectious. In the gathering, the saints were spontaneous with exuberant joy. When they met at the roadside in the meetings, there was always the evidence of God's thrilling presence, and their joy knew no bounds. Wilt thou not revive us again, that thy people may rejoice in thee? They had an abounding joy that the world knows nothing about. Here are some of the expressions. Kenny MacDonald. I was filled with unspeakable joy. My heart was absolutely free. Norman Campbell. I was flooded with inexpressible joy. Norman MacLean. It was almost the most glorious period of my life. Margaret MacLeod. She's a schoolgirl, high school girl. Then, when it happened, she said, I just couldn't stop crying. But I was crying for joy. Donald Smith, and the joy. Even in the fields, you felt the urge to sing. John Murdo Smith, he said, I have never experienced rejoicing like that in my life. People were converted, they're rejoicing. When those who were praying and laboring saw it happen, they rejoiced. William Campbell, the joy welled up within me. The joy of it all was beyond explanation. This was one of the unspeakable gifts which the Lord's people had at that time. The indescribable and overwhelming joy. Fay Hay says, my outstanding personality, oh, the singing in the house that night, the rejoicing, it was beautiful. Mr. Campbell says of Bowers, there was great joy among the Christians and seeing men and women coming to the glorious liberty of Christ. He says in one place, one elder in his prayer yesterday said, the hills and the valleys are shouting for joy. So many joyless hours that we use in the work of God. We just go on and on and on. But here's a joy which God imparted at that time. Love and unity. Love and unity. So many spoke of the love which existed among the people of God. Jack MacArthur speaks of the preachers staying with them in their home, and he says, our love extended to them as if they were part of the family. Love was shown by all sorts of people, he said. Kirsty Maggie from Arnold says, we loved everybody. It did not matter what church they belonged to. They were enveloped in the wonderful love of God. We just loved them. Catherine Campbell, our hearts were so full of love that we could not keep it in. Fay Hay, listen to this. She says, I remember the time when I entered the home of my friend's parents. I was not saved. She had just come to the Lord, and I came to their home. She said, my friend's dear parents flung their arms around me and scooped me up, saying, oh, my love, you will not leave this house without Christ tonight. John Murray says the older Christians cared for them, cared for the young ones. Love and unity. Hunger, late hours. People in Lewis do not normally go to bed early. That's just a normality for them. You know, the further north you go in Scotland and the further south you go in Ireland, the later the nights become. And, so these people were used to late nights, but this was something far worse than they had ever known. Norman Campbell says, we would go out to the meetings at 7 o'clock, then go to a home and have about 9 o'clock and have something to eat, then off to the next meeting at another place, and somewhere else at 11 o'clock or midnight. And then after that we would go to a meeting until about 4 or 5 in the morning. This would go on night after night. Imagine Duncan Campbell, he says, going to all these meetings. He was not young. Amazingly, we kept up and did not get tired. The power and the presence of God strengthened us. It was supernatural, for it could not have happened without the Lord strengthening us. Donald John says, we were up